If you're looking to create, grow, and sustain your wealth, download and subscribe to the Pain Points of Wealth podcast at BeBullish.com with Bob, Ryan, and Chris Payne. It's your podcast for market insights, money tips, and real talk on the economy. Download and subscribe at BeBullish.com.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Taxi. Okay, man, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
Good afternoon. It's Saturday, and that means that between 3 and 4 o'clock, it's the left versus the right. I'm David Patterson, and Jake Novak is back. And this is by popular demand. People that work here, people who listen to the show, people who don't even listen to the show but heard it was good, tell me you've got to have Jake Novak back. And what better a week than this one where Mayor Mandani is trying to turn New York City into Greater Belgrade, like we're in Yugoslavia or something, with some of his issues that he's presenting to the state and to the city council. And already the city council speaker has said these proposals aren't going anywhere, which actually, Jake, doesn't surprise me. I've known her a long time, and she's, left-leaning, but someone you can talk to and someone who is understands the issues and also understands the ramifications of what Mayor Mamdani is doing. So I knew you'd want to get in on this one.
Yeah, well, please God, I hope you're right. I mean, I was very much resigned to the city council rubber stamping.
Were you saying, please to God, you hope I'm right?
Yes.
Or please God that I'm God.
Yeah, no.
And you hope I'm right.
No.
I'm just wondering about that.
I know. I don't worship any human beings. That's really worked out badly for my people every time that's happened, so I'm not doing that. But please God, I hope that you're right about that, because I was really resigned to the fact that the city council would rubber stamp Mamdani's proposals, and it would be up to Albany or some act of another act. Speaking of God, another act of God to stop it. Let's hope so. What's really striking to me about all the proposals, I mean, the talking about cutting what was going to be 5,000 cop hires, talking about threatening to raise property taxes, keeping a lot of these administrative jobs for racial equality and hiring, which in the city, I think we're good on racial equality and hiring. I mean, I think that's good.
I mean, we're not only good on racial equality and hiring, but the people who've served the city are diverse. We've had 2 black mayors now, and we've had others higher up in the city council who have a great deal of following and are listened to. And there always had to be a point that addressing the fact that there wasn't much diversity in a lot of areas needed to be addressed. But I think we're at a point right now where people really are measured by their talent, their ability, and by how effective they can be.
Yeah, I mean, obviously people on the right would say it's gone too far the other way, that now there's we've replaced one favoritism from another, but I'll leave that filed on the side, because one of the things that really struck me that as funny is that someone who's lived in New York for most of the last 45 years is when Mayor Mamdani said, well, we're going to try to, tax the white neighborhoods. Let me just make this clear to everyone listening. There are no white neighborhoods in New York City. There's no such thing. OK, there are wealthy areas. But, unless you're going to call, that was just a strange idea. I mean, people say, well, what about Staten Island? Have you been to Staten Island lately? Staten Island has always had, first of all, a large black population, but it has a very large immigrant population now. It's not a white area. Calling that a white area is also a misnomer. So I just, to sacrifice cops in return for billions of dollars in funding to try to get more racial diversity in the city, where I think we've really checked that box, was probably one of the more outrageous things that I saw in his proposed budget.
I mean, regularly we add on to the police force. It assures us that we have a manageable force and enough people on it. And the 5,000 new hires, it's not like we are getting rid of 5,000 cops. It's that we're trying to replace the ones who go on to other careers and retire or for whatever reason aren't there. So it's not even as if this was some big law and order move. It was really a way to accommodate crime fighting around the city.
Yeah, it's look, this is something that I pound the table on a lot. I don't know why most people on the left, I don't think that includes you, but I don't know why most people on the left don't agree with this. But poverty does not cause crime. I don't know how many more rich people need to rob us for us to realize that your economic status is not what differentiates you or decides what your morality is going to be. What causes poverty is crime. Crime causes poverty. It's the other way around. So it's quite counterproductive to cut down on this fight, as you said, a fight against attrition in the police force in hopes of saving money. You think your budget deficit's bad now. Wait till you see how bad it gets when you lose the tax revenue from businesses that are crime-addled and homeowners that want to get the heck out. The crime that blew up in this city in the late 50s and early 60s took 40 years worth out of massive economic growth of the city before it was finally ended. We don't need to start that again. So if you're making the argument, oh, we can't afford it, believe me, you can't afford to have noticeable attrition in the NYPD.
Well, Jake, you're on a roll. Let's go through some of Mamdani's other plans that have drawn your ire, and it's not just you. Yeah,
well, I think this property tax threat, there's really no way to say it, blackmail, whatever you want to say, it's basically saying, and by the way, this was something that both frightened me but also interested me in that Mamdani was telling Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York, raise the wealth tax on all New Yorkers, by the way, or I'm going to jack up property taxes by 9.5% in New York City. So the first thing I thought of was, once again, the jacking up of property. So many of the property owners in New York City are not wealthy Wall Street guys living in a Park Avenue duplex. These are people who, very much like the borough president of Queens mentioned, people who are owners of two-family homes who are relying on the income of rental income from that second family part of the house so that they can own their half. This is going to really hurt people in the outer boroughs, as mayors of New York have been doing for years, by the way. If you live in parts of further out in Queens, even Brooklyn, but certainly Queens and Staten Island, you know what I'm talking about. You don't get your potholes fixed. So that's one thing. But the other part of it, Governor, was that, to me, this was a tremendous opening for Bruce Blakeman and his candidacy for governor of New York State. Because now that Mamdani is threatening all New Yorkers with basically threatening Hochul and pushing her for a tax increase on everyone in New York, Blakeman can now push his "I'm going to be a stalwart against Mamdani" to the upstate voters. Before, he could only really sell that here, downstate. Now he can go to Rochester, those parts of Buffalo or Orchard Park where they're wealthy. By the way, if you've ever driven to the Bills football stadium, I recommend you do it. You'll drive through some very fancy neighborhoods. Now he can go up to those neighborhoods and say, I'm here to save you from the Mamdani effect in the rest of the state, because Kathy Hochul won't do it.
Well, you see, Jake, herein lies a decision for the governor. I would think that there would be a certain point when the governor would feel, number one, disrespected by this whole process, and number two, knows good and well that she would probably be able to shut down whatever Mayor Mandani proposes that goes to Albany. Now, a lot of people have talked about the Senate and the Assembly in Albany, how they've moved to the left, and to a certain degree they have. But these are some serious situations that affect their districts. This is not an academic conversation about something that's going on in the ether. And I think that if the governor gets out there, and by the way, about Bruce Blakeman, I agree with you. It does open the door for him. What I'm just saying is it might coincide with opening the door for her because, I thought Mamdani would go through the first budget process and kind of act like I'm just kind of socialist, that sort of thing. But he has taken probably the sourest notes of his campaign and injected them into the budget process in New York City. And I don't think it's going to go well. I will admit it piqued my curiosity when the Speaker, Julie Menon, decided that she is not going to get rolled over. And I think that the people in the city council who know her know that she's that kind of person and would want to support her. I think he might be out there on an island within a couple of months, and not Long Island.
Yeah, I'd love to see some of the polling we can trust on Mamdani. My impression is that it's not good at this point after this last couple of weeks. And, you bring up a very good point. I said this to you on our last program together. I really believe that there is a paucity of people who are actually working for their bosses right now among elected Democrats, from mayors all the way up to governors to the past president and Joe Biden. It feels like these staffs are filled with DNC operatives who don't really care about the personalities. Politics is still about personality in this country, and don't understand. And that is why, look, I hope you're right about Kathy Hochul standing up to Mamdani, but throughout her entire governorship, it seems to me like she has passed over so many easy layups to boost her poll ratings. She could have immediately, after taking the governorship, reversed Andrew Cuomo's bail reform, no cash bail thing. She had nothing to do with it. She would have had absolutely no political capital to have lost doing that.
And now, unfortunately, they're nailing it to her.
Yeah.
When in fact, and it's great when a conservative comes on here and offers the fact that she had it. All she had to do was get rid of the bail reform. Mm-hmm. She was off to a flying start if she had done that.
Yeah, where are the Democrats going to go? She could have easily, she was going to play the first female governor card. That would have worked for a lot of the progressive wing. They had no one else to really challenge her with. Letitia James was not a serious challenger to her, and some of the other people, Cynthia Nixon, and that wasn't going to happen. And so she had, and it just feels like she didn't have a staff to tell her, be your own woman, and they didn't do that. And we're seeing this all over the Democrat Party, in my opinion. We're seeing this all over the country, where people could stand out simply by being reasonable. I think that there are 6 or 7 Democrats in the U.S. Senate who would boost their poll numbers exponentially if they supported the SAVE Act, the Save America Act, this voter ID proof of citizenship act. Right now, only Fetterman's doing it, and he has a ceiling on how much moderate support he's going to get, because I think he already has he has almost a monopoly on that right now. But they won't do it. And listen, let me quote the great Milton Friedman, Nobel Prize winning economist. The greatest achievements in human history have been made by people with a selfish self-interest. Don't underestimate that. And I wouldn't mind seeing some more Democrats, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I wouldn't mind seeing some more Democrats acting in their selfish self-interest. This is insane that she's not already. She should have immediately shouted him down on this threat earlier this week and said, how dare you speak to me like that? That's not how we do business in the state. Her poll numbers would have shot up 20 points overnight.
Well, now that's where we started, that I was a little surprised that she did not take that personally. And sometimes taking something personally isn't personal. You want the world to see how you're feeling about a particular situation. Now, she's still got time in this budget process. She's introduced her budget. There are a lot of things she can do to subvert the actions of the mayor. And I, totally understand if she wants to pick the time that she decides to really make this case. But I would tend to think she would want to make it as soon as possible before this outcry from the city starts to pick up some steam there. There are a number of legislators who would welcome what Mayor Mamdani's plan is.
Yeah, well, it's called Stealing Your Opponent's Issues. Everyone should read Doug Schoen's book about President Nixon, who in 1972 effectively stole the Democratic Party platform. He promised to get us out of Vietnam. He had a drug treatment program. He stole platform after platform. And Kathy Hochul this week could have stolen this opening that I just described for Bruce Blakeman, the Republican nominee for governor. I guess he's the not completely official nominee, but close enough. She could have been the anti-Mamdani. This is Blakeman's chance to win, because the problem for so many candidates who come from downstate, who come from New York, Long Island area, the New York City, Long Island area, is is getting the excitement from voters upstate. And this would be a great way for him to do this, to basically say, look, you don't have to take my word for it. This guy is a danger to you hundreds of miles away from the city, and I will be your protector in that. I don't know if he's made that statement yet, by the way. So he hasn't exactly taken the ball and run with it either, Governor. But boy, should he. And Hochul should. And I got to tell you, again, right or left, even if it's a candidate I don't support like Kathy Hochul, it pains me to see poor management. Who is managing this? I hate to see it, whether it's a sandwich shop or a candidate. She is so poorly managed that it's maddening, even though I don't want her to win.
Well, as much as she still has time to turn this around, she really does have time. The interesting part of it to me is what you've described is very common now in a lot of basically blue states, where the candidates would rather make fun of Donald Trump than talk about what they think are wrong with his policies or the policies of anybody else, and get out there and as you said, politics very often is about being a little selfish. Grab the stage, get up and do something before somebody else does it. And it's amazing how it can catch on. And within a very short period of time, people who had the opposite position are fumfering and inevitably pretending that they didn't have that position. And as a Democrat, I don't understand why we have continued to allow this to happen through the Biden administration, and probably was the ruin of the Biden administration, and even the issues with the current president. It's all about trying to make him look like he's lost his mind, trying to accuse him of being almost sadistic at times. But there are basic decisions that he's made that could be challenged, and not in a way that makes him out to be a barbaric personality, but like it's more like, I think that the president's calling me now, so I'm not even gonna talk about him anymore. But
yeah,
but what you have laid out about the Democratic Party is something that should be taken seriously. We have a little group even here around WABC, the shunned unknown, still Democrats, trying to build some kind of a movement. If we could get 10 people in the room, we'd be really doing great right now. What do you think?
Well, what you described, let's put that into some real examples here, because what you described earlier, Democrats who think that making fun of and demonizing Donald Trump is a policy or a way to run a campaign. Well, let's give you a hard example of someone who learned that the hard way, and Scott Stringer. Now, if you live here in the New York area, you saw the Scott Stringer commercials when he was running in the mayoral primary.
Right.
And they stood out because he said in the commercial, "I'll stop this schmuck," and it was a picture of President Trump. And that was basically his entire campaign. Let me be the one who uses the most vulgar, silly, denigrating term and for President Trump, and maybe I'll win, which, of course, was a losing strategy because the voters wanted to vote for someone, those kinds of voters who really, really hate Trump personally. And that's a lot in New York, let's face it. Those kinds of voters weren't looking for a funny commercial. They were looking for the candidate who they thought would really rankle Trump the most. And Mamdani was clearly that candidate. So Scott Stringer learned that the hard way twice. One, in that he had a terrible showing in the primary. And two, earlier this week, he has his feathers all in a ruffle because Mamdani has appointed as his Brooklyn director in his office someone who supported the tearing down of the pictures of the Israeli hostages after October 7th. And Stringer saying, how could this be okay? And I immediately replied to him and said, you're one of the big reasons why this guy got elected. You made the mayoral election all about hating Trump. And why would any right-minded voter not look at Mamdani and think, oh, this is the guy who hates Trump the most? So, this is the world that Scott Stringer and other Democrats are threatening us with or putting us in danger of.
It's kind of interesting because I was first elected to public office in 1985, so a long time ago. I don't remember this happening during that period of time when there were elections, there were different positions that the candidates had. They would argue, they would debate, they would sometimes make it a little personal when they didn't need to. But this whole sort of situation now where it's almost as if there's too much internet, there are too many podcasts, there are too many things to watch on TV, that it has disrupted the minds, maybe not even just Democrats, but in this particular case, Democrats, because we haven't figured out a better way to beat Republican leaders than this castigating them and making them look comical, or and that hasn't worked. And sometimes you got to sit down with a group of people that and I've always been a very good friend of Scott Stringer, but you have to have this conversation like, you know what? It's not working. It's just not working. What is working is this show, The Left versus the Right, with myself, David Patterson, and we will be back in right after a commercial break. Do you think that's okay, Jake?
I think it's fair.
Beautiful.
Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our country has to offer, especially health care. Across every state, every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.